Hi, I'm Gordon Burkell from Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify your existing skill set. You can learn more at filmmakeru.com and follow us on Twitter at filmmaker_u and on our Filmmaker U channel, YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button and check the notification bell to get our weekly videos. Every week, we interview a film professional to discuss their work, and this is made possible by our sponsors, OWC. For more information on how they can assist you in your filmmaking needs, go to owcdigital.com. And this week, I'm joined by Melissa McCoy and AJ Catoline, the editors of the hit Apple TV series Ted Lasso. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
I guess my one of my first questions for you is, when I watched the first season, the thing that stood out for me was the character development and the characters' arcs and how deep these characters were. Now, when you're editing, you get, different takes, different variations on the delivery and what have you. So how did you guys help mold those characters, or were there things that changed or evolved in the editing process?
I think it was a discovery process for us, for sure. When both of us came in, we kind of weren't sure what the episodes were going to be. We had little glimpses. I think, we had episodes 1 and 2 script wise when we started, and but then when we started watching the performances and seeing all the little nuances that the characters were doing, the looks that they were giving one another, the kind of the energy on set, they were discovering things in the scenes, and you could see like Jason come in and say, okay, do a movement like this to sell this joke, and you could see all the work that they were doing. It really informed kind of as we were going. But yeah, the characters, they deepened as they went, and for us as well. We just got more and more shades of backstory. And then when Jason came back from filming and worked with us and was giving us all these little nuggets of where he, drew from these characters and what their motivations were, and that helped us even further in the editing process. So yeah, it was really a discovery over the whole season. And like we've said before, season 1, when we got to the end of it all, we had all episodes open. So if we discovered something in one of the later episodes, we could go back to an earlier episode and kind of delve into that scene or that moment to try to build to help out this, moment later on in the season, sort of thing. So it was really a luxury in season 1 of discovering what the show wanted to be.
Now, Dan Leonard messaged just quickly to say, "Go, Melissa."
Oh, Dan Leonard?
Yes.
Yay, yes.
Oh,
I went to Chapman. So yeah, he was. Yeah. Hi, Dan.
Sorry, AJ, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I think we realized quickly early on that this was more than a comedy. Ted is much more than a barbecue sauce loving country bumpkin. He has a lot of depth to him, a lot of pathos, and we learn quickly that every character in this show has some underlying pain to them that they are not revealing. So there's a lot of shadow going on in the early episodes. You see it most immediately in Rebecca, played by the amazing Hannah Waddingham. There's so much pain that she's been through, and she's so angry, and a lot of her shadow is coming out sideways, in her, the way she's, brought in Ted, and she's trying to destroy the team. And even if that means destroying Ted along with that ruse, and she's mean to Higgins, and she's standoffish with Keeley, and the other members of the team don't know her. And so it became like a very slow emergence of, wanting to explore the footage and take our time with the moments. The scripts did not, when I started the job, I thought it was going to be more of a sketch comedy like the original shorts were. And then the scripts just got more and more fascinating as the season went on. And Mel and I were, we started off before the pandemic happened. So we were editing at Warner Brothers. So we were just next door to each other in 2 edit suites. So that was really wonderful. I could hear the music that Mel was jamming next door, whereas we were trying to find the sound of the show. And we would go back and forth like, okay, is this little scene in your show? Okay, then that means I have to make this scene this way in mine. And just setting up little gems, like Ted learned that soccer is a game that can end in ties. or draws, apologies to the Brit audience that we went with the word ties, but it that pays off enormously in the finale, when we sort of win with a tie and then don't win with a tie. But I think there was just so much more to the show. And I think Jason, because we didn't get to editing with him until much later, and that's when we learned from him how he likes to pace comedy. He's not always going for a joke. He's going for a feeling. He wants us to take time with the moments. He says to leave room for the inhales, leave room for the exhales. It makes our shows longer, and that's the joy of working for Apple TV. We don't have a network clock where a show like this would normally be 22 minutes. Apple doesn't mind if a half an hour comedy is 34 minutes, and in this season they're going to get even longer. And so Jason taught us a Ted Lasso way of editing, of just being curious, as he says, be curious, not judgmental, but to allow us to explore. And he trusts us, and that's a great collaboration to have.
Now, Dan Leonard actually followed up with a good follow-up question here, and he wants to know how much of the humor comes from unscripted moments in the show.
Hi, Dan. Not a lot. Not a lot, actually. There's a little, but mostly they do as scripted. Wouldn't you say, AJ? It's mostly scripted, but
very much. There's definitely a couple moments though.
But yeah, they definitely they'll find something on set, and a lot of times it's like our buttons to our scenes.
Yeah, like High Five Tree is a good example. There's a coat rack in Rebecca's office that looks like a tree, and Jason, one of the iconic lines of season 1, "High five, tree." That was just something he thought up on one take at the end, and that shows his SNL goofball background. Or it's like, when you're searching for an improv joke, make fun of the set and do something, and so that's an example of that right now.
Yeah, and I would think a lot of the reaction shots too are just things that they find in maybe one take, and they don't do it in the next, and so you're really trying to find those reactions to what the jokes are, and they'll workshop something that maybe they'll have the idea of it in the master shot, and then by the time we get to coverage, they have kind of the bit worked out. I'm thinking of
and that's when continuity gets difficult, when they thought of something in the close, because Jason always works that way too. He likes to be shot at the end, his close coverage, so those improvs are not available to us in the master, so we have to get creative. He did hit his head on the doorway though. That is absolutely real. He mistimed that jump. He cracked his head into the frame of that door, and the set medic had to see him after that, but he stayed in character the entire way. Wow. So he's a trooper. But yeah, not too many unscripted moments, although I will say, and I've talked about this before, the Allen Iverson scene was added to the show just in episode 6, just days before they started shooting. Jason came in with these pages, and everyone's like, "What is this?" And that was my reaction too. I didn't have a script for that scene. It was just him riffing off the words of the famous Allen Iverson rant. It's practice, man, not the game, practice. And that was something I had to set aside and cut with him at the very end, because only he had that vision of what that unscripted moment would be, but it turned out great.
Wow. Now, we talked briefly about, season 2, the first 3 episodes were originally going to drop altogether and then didn't. Now I heard that the writers had originally planned those to be almost like a mini movie. So
saw Brendan's tweet.
Yeah, how did that impact you guys? From obviously it wouldn't change your edits, but
I'll tell the fans out there who are annoyed why the show isn't dropping all at once. You can blame the editors. They can't blame us, but we're still working on the show. Okay, if we had dropped all 3 episodes, we wouldn't have been able to give you an episode 6, and we would have been dark, because I just finished picture locking the finale, episode 12 last week. There's a lot of visual effects in the show. We do not play soccer in front of a real stadium of screaming football fans. It is all added in visual effects by an amazing team. The sound team needs to work on it to bring you the full sound. So that's why they're coming piecemeal. So stand by. You'll be able to stream them all at once very soon.
Yeah, a lot of people are working very hard to bring them to life. And yeah, we want to release them all, but because we love them so much, but they need a little polish, you know, in the pixie dust.
Well, I'd rather a perfect episode as opposed to a rushed one, right?
Yeah.
Now I do have so you guys are both nominated for Emmys.
Amazing.
You know,
Woo!
The Hope That
Right
Kills
now?
You and Make
High five straight.
Great Again. What I've been doing with people, because I've been interviewing a lot of Emmy nominees, and usually if the actors are doing it, they send out the DVDs and they have like the for your consideration in the scene. So I was wondering if you guys could take from each of the episodes that you guys have been nominated, is there a scene or a moment that you think really stands out and shows your craft, or something you're really proud of, and what made it a challenge, or what made it something you're so proud of? I guess let's start with Melissa.
Okay. Geez, episode 7 is really a special one to me. Jason wrote that one, and there's just so much going on in that. I mean, we meet Sassy and Rebecca and Keeley have their kind of girls' weekend, and then the guys are on their trip for the team, the away game, where they haven't beat this team in like so long, right? So that's the setup, but that amongst all this stuff, Ted's dealing with signing divorce papers, and Keeley and Roy are kind of they've had their spark going, and then we meet Sassy, who's from Rebecca's past, and that kind of sets the whole show into motion there. And then we have the scene in the locker room, which is my background, where Nate gives the motivational speech. And it would be a toss up with the Nate motivational speech, and then probably the karaoke, Rebecca doing the karaoke into Ted's panic attack. That scene to me there was so much in that scene. First of all, Hannah singing live is amazing. And then I had to build in Ted. You have to build in kind of something's not right with him amongst this whole karaoke scene where Hannah's coming in, Rebecca's coming into her own kind of again. You kind of see a little bit of light of Rebecca's past, of who she really is. She's not this, a hurt person. She's got a lot of joy to her. And so, building that whole sequence with Rebecca singing and the team kind of enthralled with her, and then you get a shot of Roy, he knows the lyrics, and then kind of amongst all this joy happening, we build in the sound design of Ted's panic attack starting, and you see something's kind of going wrong, and we start jump cuts in his hands. He's doing this with his hands, and then jump cut him out of the room, out of the bar, and we in post added a little kind of visual effect to his footage, where you get like the trails behind him, and getting him out of that bar. And when he's sitting down on the sidewalk, he's having his panic attacks, and there's jump cuts, and some of that footage is just reused footage that we blew up because we didn't have like a ton of footage out there, and I wanted it to feel like you don't know how long he's been out there suffering, because at the end of that, Rebecca's there to help him. So she's been in singing, and then she's out with him. And so I wanted to build that feeling of this could have been 10 minutes he's been out here, and she's finished her set and come out and found him. So that was a big set piece and a big pivotal moment I felt for the season and the episode that I needed to get right. And so that was one I'm particularly proud of, because of juggling all the pieces to put it together was a fine dance, and everybody's performances were so amazing. And there was so much with the sound design and the visuals, and there was just a lot going on in such a small, compact time frame. So
when I think back to it, I don't think you don't cut to a reaction shot of like Rebecca or anyone really seeing him leave. It's just he gets up and goes.
You stay with Ted once you get to his panic attack. you're with Ted.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's a definite I think creative choice, because you just want to be with him, right? You're like, what's going on? You don't want anybody to notice, I feel, because you want to get him out there and dealing with that. And stay with him for that.
How about yourself, AJ?
Yeah, the my episode that's nominated, episode 110, The Hope That Kills You. That's just a beautiful title for the theme of the pandemic. And I think that's why the show resonated with so many people during the pandemic, because the show provided them, some hope, a good feeling, a sense of a team being together at a time when there was so much isolation and everyone off on their own. So that episode, to me, so many of the episodes I cut season 1 were just beautiful and had great, powerful scenes. I love the, episode 8, the dart game, high stakes dart game with Ted and Rupert, where he talks about being curious and judgmental. But I think episode 10, the reason I submitted it for the Emmys was because it just felt like it hit. It was such a roller coaster, emotionally. You have a lot of comedy in the show, so you have a lot of laughs, especially up front with the team thinking about all these trick plays that they're going to do, and you think it's just a joke, but it sets up the Lasso special at the end, which was just a remarkable, hilarious comedic set piece. But also our characters, what happens with Roy when he's chasing down Jamie Tart, his ultimate nemesis, and he's not going to let him score that goal, and he just gives everything he's got for old man Roy Kent to run down that field and to get that ball away from Jamie. And he snaps his knee, and he knows he's walking off the field, for the last time, and then he's alone in the locker room, and then Keely comes to see him. And I chose this background here because that scene just gets me every time I watch it. I still have an emotional reaction, and the way he's alone, and then Keely comes to him, and that's the theme of the episode, is that ultimately no one is alone in Ted Lasso, and we sit in that final wide shot where we can take a breath and see Roy and Keely just embracing each other, and I wanted to hold on that shot and a little bit longer than you normally would, but just to let the audience have a chance to breathe, because that's what's important in Ted Lasso. Jason always tells me this, leave room for the inhales and the exhales of the show, so that there is a chance for the audience to think about what they've just seen. And then we go into the most insane comedic set piece that I've had the privilege to cut, where we do go into, we reveal that, all Richmond needs is a tie to win, which is, a great joke on the game of, football. You watch 90 minutes of a game and it's 0-0, that's probably why Americans don't like it. And that's why Ted Lasso was created, is to introduce the game to Americans. And so the show goes back to its roots in this finale, where we're doing a spoof on American football, and the cue that the composers wrote there is called American Football. And it's a scene where we just see this ridiculous play, and I love when Jamie's like, "Ref, they can't do that. You can't do that," but they do it, and they get an amazing goal, and we see that's been set up. So everything in the show is set up. So we set up the tie early on in episode 1. And then we set up that Sam, when Danny Rojas first comes onto the field, Sam passes to him, and Danny does that amazing bicycle kick of the ball in episode 6. And that's Danny's entrance to the team. And that exact same play happens in the finale. Sam passes the ball to Danny, and Danny kicks it in that great play. And the audience is just on this high, like, oh my God, you've done it. You won, and you won with a tie. And then, of course, Jamie comes back and takes the ball down the field, and he does something that nobody expects him to do, something that he learned from Ted. He makes the extra pass, and that is what scores that goal. And that's something, so Ted is teaching Jamie to become his best self. And in that, he works against Richmond and gets them relegated. And editorially, for me, we got to do something there that is a pleasure for an editor, which is usually you build your scene with no music and you get the scene working. In this case, it was the reverse. Jason and I talked about, using this Marcus Mumford's rendition of "You'll Never Walk Alone," which was a song that resonated in the pandemic, especially in England. They sang it for the healthcare workers. We laid that song down, and it just was perfect for that moment. And we cut the picture to the song, to the music. So that's always fun for an editor. You go back to your music video editing days. I think that's when everyone realizes the magic of editing is when you take a song and like picture to the rhythm. So that is a moment that it's joyful for me. And I got the chills watching it and cried when I watched it. The network, we got notes, and they're like, "Oh my God, we cried." And that's a great note to get for a comedy. So the music really played a character there. And then of course we go into the ending speech, and it's like, no one in this room is alone. Remember, when you in times of adversity, be a goldfish, live in the moment, and just go on to the best that you can, because we exist in the present. The loss is in the past, and it's a great way to kick the season. It's a finale, and it kicks it forward into season 2, and all those themes are definitely delivered on in season 2 about being your best self and living in the moment and being a goldfish. And so yeah, it was just a wonderful episode to cut, and I'm so privileged to have been given the opportunity to edit it. So I had no idea when I started the show that I'd be cutting a finale like that.
You made Apple cry, is what you're saying.
Yes, I made Apple cry. Those executives cry. They did. And
I have a question here. I don't have the name on it, but it's are the shooting of the soccer scenes, are they against LED walls at any point, or are the VFX more post-composited?
There's a green screen.
Yeah. Now Dan also wants Dan Leonard's back, and he says, is there a scene that you left on the cutting room floor that was especially hard to cut?
Not really. And I don't think we don't want to talk about one of those because it kind of comes back, right? I think, but no, pretty much every, the writers were really judicious with writing this show. There's not, and that's the thing, as you see from our running times, like if you had producers who, wanted to rush the show, or like, no, let's cut this for comedy, we probably would have done what we could to get the run times down to more like 28 minutes or something is better for a half an hour comedy. But in the case of Jason and Bill Lawrence, just had the vision and the confidence to like, no, we have a beautiful story here, let's tell it. We put it all in, and the shows are 34 minutes long. So yeah, nothing really left on the cutting room floor. Yes, I mean, Bill Lawrence is a master. It's sometimes like it would be a little funnier if we got to this joke through this way. So he'll cut a couple lines and then write a piece of dialogue that we call ADR that we can hide on the back of someone's head to kind of get to something quicker. So in that sense, there might be a few lines that are dropped, but not really a scene. No.
Yeah, I was gonna say we get this question a lot, and I guess we did a good job, because I remember in season 1 talking with my assistant and being like, oh, this joke's gone, and we'd go, to the joke graveyard, and Jason would say, I'm gonna remember that joke for season 2. It's a good joke, but it just doesn't work for the moment. And there were so many of those where and my assistant and I, we would quote those jokes because we speak in Ted Lassoisms a lot. And then I said to her, I was like, what were some of the really fun jokes that we missed? And we couldn't think of them by the time we're doing the interviews. That season 1's gone by. And I was like, I guess that's a good thing. Like, they didn't stand the test of time. And I think that we got the episodes to exactly where they needed to be. And so there really wasn't, at the time, I'm sure there was heartbreaking things that we were like, oh, this is a good one, but I can see why it's leaving, but I can't for the life of me remember them now, now that there's one scene, and I'm trying, the pub guys. In episode.
Yeah, well, we had some issues with our pub boys, our lads. They're sort of the Greek chorus of Ted Lasso, Jeremy, Baz, and Paul. And they're always kind of reacting to Lasso, and and they just tell him truly what they think of him. Of course, Paul really, loves him more. But yeah, there was just a moment Mel and I were back and forth about, are they in your show or not? Because I have to switch it. If you do it this way, I have to switch it back to mine. And I swear, Mel and I just had to keep two parallel versions, and we were constantly in, out, in, out. But we had the versions cut, and we were just moving back and forth, and it blew our minds a bit. But we figured it out.
Yeah.
Now, I have a comment here for you guys, and it just says, I'm here to tell you that I love the show. This is from Janine. Love the emphasis on humanity and kindness, and congrats to all the hard work you've done in the show.
Oh, thank
you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a diamond dog and a lion and a panda. Thank you.
And Dan wants to know how long you get for each episode to cut.
Editors Well, we've been pretty lucky on this show. I think it's interesting because it's not like the typical network schedule. We kind of have a little bit of a luxury, but it's not, because they block shoot the episodes, but then every once in a while they don't block shoot. So for season 2, for example, I cut 1, 3, and 5, but 4 went after 5. So there was a period where I was in dailies forever. Like it just didn't stop. And because they block shoot also, it's like some days you don't get a lot of dailies, some days you get a ton of dailies. So we got a little bit of a luxury in our editor cut days, just because we were never out of dailies. So you were, and things were coming in at different times. So it fluctuates. I mean, I would say we probably, at the end of it, you get like 2 days to get them together. But there's also, there's only 2 of us, and as the episodes grow bigger and and they grew more complicated, we just needed a little bit more time. So we would get, every once in a while, an extra day to kind of polish and get things together. So we're definitely, grateful to Apple and all that to have the streaming of not having, like, we're on Thursday and you're up against delivery date stuff in that way. I mean, we still have delivery dates, but there's some flexibility.
I was going to say, you say there's 2 of us, and there's also our 2 assistant editors who are not with us on this call, but I want to shout them out. Alex Zabo and Francesca Castro, who assists Mel, and they are just, we wouldn't be able to do it without them. And we have a visual effects editor on this year, Frank, who's amazing, who helped us out. And, we have a music editor, Richard Brown, who's nominated. So we have a lot of other people who are, part, and our supervising sound editor, Brent Findley, also nominated. We have a lot of people who really help us out with the schedule, which was tighter this year. I mean, I'll just say that we worked on Ted Lasso season 1 about 10 months and did 10 episodes. And this year we've done 12 episodes in about 7 months. So, I think we've gelled together as a post team, soccer, like editing, it's a game of collaboration. And because we've gelled and know each other well, we've been able to do more sort of faster. But yeah, so, how much time we have an editor's cut is hard to say. I mean, traditionally, the editor has to get it together in about 8 days, maybe. But, we've kind of bounced all around working on multiple episodes, and they have been very, lenient with us. And then when we get in with Jason, it's usually he tries to get it done with us in about 3 to 4 days. He saves it. He always comes it up right up to the end, right up to the deadline. Jason works. He's like, well, that's what you get for working with an SNL guy. We're going to do it live. He's going to take us right up to the very edge when we got to deliver the show.
And he's wearing so many hats too, and he's doing press and he was writing and acting in it, and then also doing notes. I mean, I would get, 20 minutes with him on Zoom when he was in his trailer in London for some of the earlier episodes of just like broad thoughts and things. And so talk about a man of many trades. Like, he really has the Ted Lasso vision for all 3 seasons in his brain, and is the keeper of a lot of secrets and ideas, and he's integral to the whole show. So it's really special in that way, that there's, that brain trust is like the star of the show. It's a blessing and a curse, I think, probably for him a little bit, that he's so involved, but the show is is so elevated because of it. I think he's got so much heart.
It's entirely him. It's entirely his vision in his head. And I think it's the role of all of the crew, all of the different departments, the directors and the camera and makeup and costume and ultimately down to us editors, who are sort of doing the final rewrite, as they say. These writers have written amazing scripts, but it's now up to us to be the sort of the final eyes as that goes out into the world. But yeah, I think, working with Jason, you sense that he has this amazing vision, and you're trying to help him get the vision out of his head onto the screen. And that's a great collaboration to be in. And he trusts us a lot. He loves the term movie magic. What movie magic can we do to make this moment play better? And so we're talking to him often about the tools we have as editors, with sound, with music, with, using, for example, the Avid Media Composer's Morph tool is very helpful when we're trying to, get to the shots to kind of come together. We're splitting a lot of frames where one side of it is a different reaction on the other side. And there's a lot of invisible work. Editing is an invisible art, but the artists are visible who do the work. And so I want to give shout outs to all the team on our show who make this come together. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Now we have a question from Dustin. Is there anything you've learned or you're learning more about recently in terms of industry trends now that you've sort of been working on streaming services?
I think that they don't tell you how many people are watching, right?
Well, I got one last question for you guys. And I asked this of everyone.
Popular. I think they love the show. Sorry, go ahead.
We've been stuck in this pandemic for quite a while, and a lot of, depending on where you are in the world, you might be stuck inside for a bit. And in that time, a lot of people have turned to streaming services for entertainment. So is there a show or a movie you've discovered over the last year that you think people should check out?
Not to plug Apple, but it's so funny. I just finished Mythic Quest, and my husband and I were talking about how it really is like it's set in the video game world, but it's really kind of a dichotomy of like a film set as well, like all the production and the egos and the attitudes that go into it. We really enjoyed that one. But the other one we really enjoy is the Netflix, The Movies That Made Us. If you're, like all the best movies, the Home Alone one will hit you right in the feel. Like if you're looking for something that's like feel good, that will take you back to your childhood, and I guess if you're of a certain age, but for me, they had a Back to the Future one, and now I'm showing my son Back to the Future. We watched that the other day. He really wanted to see it. So, it's just a fun look back at all the drama and stuff that comes when you put together, your favorite, all the special magic that comes together with those films that you love. And it kind of feels like, in a little way that we're a part of that with Ted Lasso. It's just got that special magic that you don't know why some shows hit and some don't. And I'm sure, we reflect on it a lot with doing these interviews, but I'm sure we'll look back in 10 years and have a different view of it, with the pandemic and kind of what was trending on television and stuff. So, I hope we get to do one of those one day.
I think for me, just going, if you want to talk about just watching old stuff on the streaming services, that's amazing. I'm a big fan of Aaron Sorkin, and so is Jason, and we bonded over that about, like he loved The West Wing, and so did I. So I went back and watched a lot of old Sorkin stuff, like old West Wing episodes, and even it was the anniversary of his film, The American President. I think it's the 25th anniversary of that, just during the pandemic. And so I just think what I liked about that was just watching a more positive vision of American politics. And I think that resonated with me with Ted, because Ted he's the opposite of the ugly American. He goes over to England with, such, kind of hope, and it's the hope that kills you. So he's always kind of butting up against his British hosts over there. But, there's a great line in the opening pilot where he's like, how many countries are in this country? And they're like 4. And he's like, that's like America now. So going back and watching some of the West Wing episodes just kind of gave me some hope and inspiration that there can be a country and sort of a place where we all can get along and be inspired, because Sorkin's shows do that to you too. There's comedy and there's drama, but there's pathos and there's feeling, and I get the chills when I watch that, and that's similar to what Ted Lasso's like too. So I would recommend that. And Good Will Hunting too is a great one to watch, especially in these times of mental health being so important. That's such a beautiful film, and you gotta love Robin Williams. So great comedy treasure.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you guys. And that's it for our show this week. Make sure to check out filmmakeru.com for all our latest courses, and follow us on Twitter at filmmaker_u to stay notified on our weekly updates. I want to thank you guys again for joining us. And of course, our sponsors, OWC. Go to OWC Digital for all your filmmaking and computer needs. I'm Gordon Burkell. Thanks for watching. Have a good one,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.